as we dive into the Sheepdogs, I want to set the tone. I shaved the nicest rock and roll mustache that I could muster up to try to be an honorary member of the Sheepdogs family today. And then I'm sporting my greenest shirt in honor of the artwork of your new solo album. So, Shamus, do I get a 1 day honorary guest pass into the Sheepdogs family today?
Sure, man. Come on board. We love it. The stash
Attaboy.
is great, by the way. I love the stash.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Nice
I was
Zappa bottom piece there too.
I was getting lost. I forget, like I can't see myself, so I forget that I did this a few days ago. And I show up at hockey and everyone's making comments. I didn't even
Yeah.
remember I had it. But anyway, so as we dive into the Sheepdog, so I'm just gonna set the stage. So the band forms in 2004. The band releases the albums Trying to Grow 2007, The Sheepdogs Big Stand 2008, Learn and Burn 2010, and then the Sheepdogs 2012. So you weren't officially in the band yet. So you played trombone on Big Stand and Learn and Burn. You were there as a guest. And then in 2012, you became a touring member. And in 2014, you became a full-time member. When we talked off camera, you mentioned that it's kind of, the lines are a little bit blurred between what is a touring musician, what's an official musician. So can you talk about maybe you performing on those two albums and then you, I guess, getting into the band as a touring member and then as a full-time member?
Sure. Well, I mean, the biggest piece of the backstory is just that the Sheepdogs was like my brother Ewan and his pals Ryan, his high school buddies Ryan and Sam. It was their band. They started as a trio, and then they added Liat, their fourth piece, a couple years into the band's existence. They were my older brother and his buddies, like bar band essentially. So they were kind of like, my cool gateway into the older world of like bars and music and girls and all that kind of stuff. So like I was a Sheepdogs fan well before I'd ever considered going to see the band, just because I was like the younger brother. So uh, I remember seeing them play at their first ever gig at a Battle of the Bands at Louis, same place I saw Sloan, when I was 16 or 15 or whatever. And yeah, I just sort of, followed them as a more of just sort of like a younger brother supporting my older brother. Like, hey, this is my brother's new passion, and he's doing this, and it's kind of cool. And but then also going to hang out at rock shows is fun, and it just sort of became part of like coming of age and especially becoming a bar age. I realized that like I didn't really like going to the clubs as much. I like going to places that were playing music, like live music, and that kind of the arts scene was more appealing to me. And the fact that I had this connection with my older brother who was already playing at all these venues, it was kind of like a great gateway into that whole world for me. So to me, like they were just sort of the pinnacle of cool. It was like these are my guys. And then right when they started touring and actually playing, gigs outside of Saskatoon, and they started coming back with like cool outfits that they bought on the road, and like started growing like wicked facial hair and stuff, and like they'd have these new original songs they'd written that I hadn't heard yet and stuff, because they were progressing as a band. Meanwhile I was like 17, 18, working as a short order cook or at a CD store, just sort of like coming up in their wake a little bit. I was just like, man, these guys are so cool, it's really coming on. And then that was also part of like when I was starting my own bands and playing music on my own and starting to think about moving to Toronto to take music a little more seriously. That was all kind of in the shadow of my brother and his band and them working on their music. And when I was at Humber in my third year, I was kind of a little bit at odds of what I was doing with my life, because I was like, why am I studying jazz trombone? I don't think I'm going to be able to do this as a career. This is going to be kind of difficult. What should I really be doing? That was the year that the Sheepdogs entered and won that Rolling Stone competition. And so I was just following that just as a fan. But at the same time, it was kind of this galvanizing thing for me, because I was watching my brother achieve this amazing feat of like, he was kind of, the country was getting behind the Sheepdogs and everyone was really excited that they were in this Rolling Stone competition and they were competing with American bands and doing so well. And they made it to the top two and everyone was voting for them and all that kind of stuff.
But you,
I
you
was
were
following
also
them.
you were also a part of that album, right? The Learn and Burn is what
I
was
played
out.
trombone. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
played
you were, I
trombone.
mean, there's a part of you that was a part of that journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. But I was just so thrilled for them. And in a way, for me, because I was like kind of struggling at school at the time, not struggling, but just sort of like, what am I doing here? And like seeing them succeed was motivating me to do better. at school in my own regard. I was like, hey, if they can do well, I can do well. You know, like this is great. It was just sort of like this great boosting experience. And then the year of my final recital in my third year, I wrote and recorded a rock opera, not dissimilar to The Shepherd and the Wolf, actually. It was like a concept suite of 30 minutes of music that I performed at my school. And I got like a pretty good mark on it. And so afterwards, me and the band were celebrating. That night, Ewan calls me and he says, hey, we've won this competition. We want to add a keyboard player to the band. You want to come on the road with us? And I was just like, yes, this is the greatest day of my life. I'll do it, of course. So I took the next year off school and I went on the road with the guys. That was 2012. And it was right at the peak of their stardom because they had just won this competition and they were just the hot band in everywhere. So I think the story I always jokingly tell is my first ever gig, we played a club show at the El Macombo in Toronto. And I was just playing off keyboard parts to make them sound more like the live or make the live show sound more like the record. And I didn't have any shoes at the time that were like rock and roll shoes, so I just played barefoot like a homeless guy or something. It's pretty funny. And then my second ever show, we played I think it was the Indie Awards. It was some kind of award show in Toronto, but we were backing up Paul Rogers from Free. He played with us and we did like some Free songs. I was like, this is amazing. And then my third show was Coachella in California. So we kind of like just jumped right into the deep end of playing these like amazing high profile shows. I was like, what is my life now?
Yeah, well, that escalated quickly.
Yes, yes, it did.